It's good with.
Looks good live. Looks like good live. What up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the LockerRoom Chronicles. Brother, sit down, chop it up, and talk about relationships. Some of the issues that we go through life. In the time you can make some improvements and then apply those solutions that we come up with here in the LockerRoom. I'd like to welcome my co-host, the Gilded King himself, Eugene Coleman.
What's popping? What's
Welcome
popping?
one time. Many other brothers out there that's waiting to come on in and join the conversation. Talking about boundaries, building boundaries, part two. Yeah, last time that we had the opportunity to do the show, you did some very practical. You say you do.
What's that, bro? Oh, I'm sorry, bro. I was waiting on you to
I,
finish.
I,
Popping. This is Eugene Coleman, aka the Bearded King, man. Once again, thank us for joining us for another episode of LockerRoom Chronicles. Got my man Twine in the building. What's cracking, Twine? A lot of other fellas, I'm sure they'll come in, but like my co-host said, man, we started talking about building boundaries, and this is not something you can cover in just one show. So tonight, what I want us to do is really dive into this, um, because understand this. There's a lot of people that they're wondering why their relationships are failing. And the reason why your relationships are failing is because there are no guidelines set at the beginning. It's just like when we're in college, you start your first day of class, you normally get what they call a syllabus. And it pretty much gives you an outline of what you're going to be doing the whole semester. And it's the same thing with a relationship. If you go into a relationship without any kind of boundaries or any kind of things set in motion or in place, sometimes you might get lucky. It might work out. But I used to have a saying that was corrected extremely fast. I used to be like, you know what, we just gonna go with the flow, see what happens. But sometimes going with the flow, you never know where that flow is gonna lead you. You might be leading somewhere you don't want to be. So I don't go with the flow anymore. So from this point on, I think it's very important for us to kind of set guidelines and boundaries, somewhat a syllabus for a relationship guide. So what I want to do, Twan, since you the man with the plan, you new on here, I want you to take about 2 or 3 minutes, man, and just explain to us what you think boundaries are to you.
Um, I would say as an educator, and said when I think about boundaries, I think about classroom management. So like I said in my classroom, again, there are certain standards that are set, but within those standards, there are certain things that I expect from my students. Let's say, if they cross that again, just like in a relationship, if they cross that line, in a negative aspect, they are reprimanded. Or if they cross that line, or I should say, or if they step up to the plate with the right, that's obviously with the right things and within the rules and regulations of my classroom, they get rewarded. So again, I guess translated to relationships, it's basically kind of like the same thing. We're setting our standards, we're setting our boundaries, we setting our expectations of what we want as an individual when it comes to the relationship with a significant other. So it's like I said, it's setting those standards. Let's go ahead and set those standards in place, and not only setting those standards, but abiding by those standards that you set, not just for yourself, but also for the other person.
Okay, roger that, roger that. My man Myron in the building. What's going on, man? Unmute yourself, brother.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
I see you traveling, man. Be careful while you're traveling. Listen, you already know
Yes,
what it
sir.
is, man. Talking about boundaries. I want you to take about 2 or 3 minutes and tell us what you think boundaries are to you.
For me, boundaries are um, something that I have thought of for myself. Are we talking about in a relationship?
I mean, whatever, however you want to flow, bro. If you want to talk relationship,
Okay,
partnership,
something
I
that
mean,
I've right. All right, so I'll deal with it from in a relationship. Something that I've thought of for myself, something that's important to me, something that I've discussed with my partner. Um, and she and I come to an agreement on what certain boundaries are going to be, what certain things, because we all have our little pet peeve, that might be different from one person to another. So my boundary with one person might be different than my boundary with another person, just based on the dynamics of whether it's our friendship, our relationship, or whatever. So, I think boundaries is just something that we should talk about and establish. Um, because certain things, I know myself. There's things that are, and so that's something that I want to discuss and say, listen, I understand that this is something that triggers me. Um, it may not be that huge a deal in general, but for me, it's not seriously. I know it triggers me. And understand that to this.
You're breaking up, Myron.
Well, he's traveling, so he's probably hitting dead spots.
Uh-oh.
And he muted his mic. That's all right.
Okay, yeah, it restarted my Zoom, so I'm not sure what happened, but so I'm not sure where it cut off. But boundaries are good to establish with people so that you don't kind of step on each other's toes and aggravate each other. You kind of know the things that trigger somebody or the things that are important to somebody, and try to just stay away from things.
Okay, all right. All right, Bill, what about you, man? That young brother just joined in. When he come back, we're gonna let him speak. But let me get your take on boundaries, bro.
Oh man, most definitely. Trial and error through growing up. You kind of, you kind of have that attitude like I'm down for whatever. You want to be a free spirit, let them be a free spirit and everything, and then you have a certain perception about somebody, and you place that perception on how they should be, how they should act. Try to apply their, you try to equate their seriousness about relationship levels, and see if you're on the same mindset and all that other stuff. You project that up on them. Then you find out without those boundaries and stuff is you fall into the minefield of, dang man, she's not who I thought she was. And there's some things about her that I projected upon her. Didn't have the boundaries in place to maintain a conducive structure for the relationship, and those things that could not be crossed. Oh man, that caused problems, man, because the same thing I was doing to her, she was also doing to me. She made those assumptions and everything. So you have to have those discussions about boundaries. Otherwise, it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah, Roger. You said something that was very key. When you start something new, when you're in a new relationship, we tend to, of course, we want to believe the best of an individual. We want to believe, especially if we really feel them, we want to think like, okay, wow, she's the one. Like this is finna be what it is. But the reality is that you don't know each other. So if you don't put proper boundaries in place so that you can learn one another, like I said, going with the flow is going to have you somewhere you don't want to be. And the funny part about it, you could have possibly had a very good relationship, but because you didn't set any boundaries or any guidelines, wherever your flow took you, that's where it took you. So I think it's very key that you set boundaries. That way that will set some things in order. That'll set some expectations. And here's the one thing, fellas, I want us to do this. As you're setting boundaries, you remember I used to always say your non-negotiables, you got to be realistic, man. You got to be realistic. Your boundaries definitely have to fit you, but realistically, if you know that person probably can't meet those boundaries, you may need to adjust them and then let them grow, because sometimes you can set boundaries, but as the relationship evolves, certain boundaries may fall off and then you might need to put new ones into place. So we got a new young man on the screen that just popped up. Appreciate you, brother. We're talking about boundaries. Unmute your mic and give us your explanation what you think boundaries are to you, young fella.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Your mic is muted, bro.
Yeah, I was like, young fella. I don't know who I was trying to figure out who he was addressing. I was just got the invite from Whitney and was popping in, to see what was going on, since I never actually participated in something for HBCU Singles Lounge.
Right.
So it sounds like y'all were talking about boundaries and what boundaries need to be set. I think it's definitely good to these are relationship boundaries that I presume that we're talking about. And I feel like knowing where people are in their relationship goals and what their aspirations are. Some people when I the thing that comes to mind immediately right now is just when people are approaching marriages, right? And so when people are approaching marriages, I find like not everybody has the same expectation for what marriage can be, or not everybody, projects what they actually desire in the marriage. And so, I have this conversation a bit where people have different versions of marriage, and a lot of people try to put themselves inside the version of marriage that is, the most popular version of marriage, the one that's been pushed for society for quite a long time. And some people, I've got lots of friends who are married, and unfortunately they're unhappily married because they didn't, they wanted a wider boundary in their marriage, and they, put themselves in a tighter boundary, on their marriage. And I think people should be honest when they're, setting those boundaries. And so, those people that are unhappy that I know, some of them, probably or should be in a more open type of relationship, as far as the types of boundaries that they have. They should set wider boundaries, but they came in, with this, narrow boundary, and they ended up with an unhappy situation. So I think you just got to always be honest about what your boundaries may be, whether you want those boundaries to be very tight boundaries, or whether you want those boundaries to be boundaries that are expansive. And it's not one size fits all in relationships. I've got no dog in this fight, but this is just a thought that's coming to mind since the microphone got passed to me. And so, I think people should be honest in what their boundaries are, or what they want their boundaries to be, whether those are tight boundaries or whether those are open boundaries, and just know that relationships aren't one size fits all, and people should have different versions of relationship to match whatever their expectations are.
An excellent point. You just said something that was phenomenal. Fellas, watch this. Every relationship is different, brother. Every woman you meet is different. Every situation you get into is different. But the biggest mistake we tend to make is that we tend to generalize, and you can't do that. Even in generalization, you still have, every woman is unique in her own right. So to even try to go in and like, well, she's just a woman and this is certain things, you just make the assumption that there's certain things just gonna fly. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. And then the event that you meet that phenomenal woman, my famous line is, every man on this line, man that comes in contact with us, I always encourage them. If you're seeking a relationship, the biggest thing that I find important is that every man has two things in him. He has the jester, the court jester, which is the silly, goofy side, hang outside. And then, of course, he has the king in him. Sometimes you have to acknowledge what the woman that you're dating or are trying to pursue. You got to watch what she brings out of you. If she brings that court jester out of you, she has you at the silly or goofy, that's cool for a season, but you really want to meet a woman that's going to speak to the king in you, that's going to activate the king in you, that's going to inspire you to do great things. So again, you have to treat each situation different. You can't keep going around saying, okay, well, she's a woman, so she's the same. No, they're not. They're so different. They have different fingerprints. They have different thought patterns. They have different vision boards. They have different aspirations. They're just not the same at all. So you have to approach each one of them different. I want each one of the fellows to do me a favor. My famous line is, we all have non-negotiables. Give me one boundary that you're like deadlocked on, like this boundary can't be crossed in no shape, form, or fashion, and give me why that is. So, Twan, we'll start with you, bro. If you don't have one now, whoever has one, speak up. Like, I just want you to give me one of your boundaries. Just say, you know what, when I meet a young lady, this is what I'm putting on the table in the door. So she'll understand kind of who I am. Like, what makes up you, Jay? This is what makes me up. This is the makeup of me. This is not nice. This is not all of me, but this is kind of an introduction to who I am and what I, what I will deal with and will not. So that's a question on the floor.
I got one. She can't be a substance abuser. And so
Right.
that's a pretty hard boundary for me. Can't be a substance abuser. I don't drink or smoke. I don't mind if, she partakes in drinking. I don't like charcoal mouth myself. I don't like kissing you in your it's not my thing. But you can't drink, you can't smoke, can't be I don't drink or smoke, but she can't be a substance abuser to the point that it's complicating her life when she's consuming whatever that substance may be.
Roger that.
Excellent.
You know what? And you know what? I'm gonna have to join in with you on that one, brother. Like me, this is gonna sound weird. I cannot stand cigarette smoke, but I love cigars. I am a cigar aficionado. I love smoking cigars, and I love to see a woman smoke cigar. That is like the sexiest thing in the world. Like, and it's nothing. I just think it's sexy because it shows that, hey, I'm bold enough to do this. But again, like I said, she can't be drunk. It's all right. Get tipsy, get happy, but don't get drunk. That's that. And I agree with that. And I have an addendum to that. Something that I had to deal with in my past marriage. You cannot, under no circumstances, be a gambler. You cannot be a gambler at all, no shape, form, or fashion. I grew up a certain way, and to see people waste money is the most aggravating thing I ever experienced in my life. There's no way in the world. How do you take your entire check and blow it and just throw it out the window? I don't get that. So anything that's going to make you throw money out the window and you have nothing to show for it is an absolute no for me. I can't go. I'm not going. Go ahead, Swan. I think you done cooked up one. You got that look.
I had a couple. It's
You
like
know,
I know we got to pick one.
Get one. There you go. Rise to that.
I know we got to pick one, but I guess the main one, even though it's kind of cliche, but it's
But
really
yours.
to me it's
Don't call it cliche, brother. It's yours. If that's your absolute, that's yours. It's not cliche. Nothing cliche about how you feel. Go ahead.
yeah. I was just saying, but I think everybody says this all the time, but it's so important. It's that it's that relationship with God and with me. That's the biggest thing, because I'm not saying that you have to be a holy roller. I'm not saying that you have to go to church and every time you hear the pastor fart or something and you shout. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying.
Oh, son of a Honda! He did it again.
Yeah, people shout all the time. But still having, like I said, but still the most important thing is having a healthy relationship with God. And because, like I said, that for one thing, no matter how deep it is, that is actually your most important relationship. If you don't have that relationship, you can't have. If you don't have a good relationship with God, how can you have a good relationship with anybody else? To help guide you in the right path, or even to help guide me in the right path. So that's my biggest thing. Like I said, I'm not saying, like I said, you don't have to be Hibasha Honda, every 5 seconds. But I do want you to at least have some kind of good personal relationship with God.
Yeah, Rise. Come on, Myron. Come on with that knowledge, young fella. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I think, I'll co-sign a lot of what was said, because for me, the smoker is a big thing. I love the kiss, and that charcoal mouth, like the brother said, is a little term. But since that was covered, I'll cover something that's really basic that I think everyone is. I can't deal with a liar. Like, if you lie and I can't trust what you say, or I can't trust what you do, if you say you're going to do something, but you're lying about doing it, if I can't trust what you say or can't trust what you do, there is no relationship, period. It can't get off the ground. It can't go anywhere. So to me, that is a huge one. If you're a liar, if you're a cheater, it's just not gonna work, period. There's no compromising with that at all.
I think that's an unwritten rule. Like, how I'm gonna get in a relationship with you? You tricking off? No, we can't do that one. Ain't about that life. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah. We as brothers got to get off that trip too, man. I mean,
Yeah, that's true, because we try to be on some slick stuff, boy. But I always say, fellas, you know me, I'm very, very candid about what I say. You're gonna meet one that play that game better than you, and actually all of them can play that game better than us. So you're gonna meet that one that's gonna play that game better than you, and you're gonna be singing that little Lily song, you know. Girl, you know I love you, crying. Yeah, you ain't ready for that one. All right, Myra said, liar, cheater. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of automatic. I don't even know if that's yours. I appreciate it, bro, but yeah, that's in the dough. Like, that's an unwritten boundary. Like, we're not even doing that. All right, Bill, your turn, bro.
Oh man, I agree with most of the brothers. You know, you have to be equally yoked, and in all ways, you know, spirituality and everything. She has to be equally yoked. We got to be serving the same God and on that same path and journey together. We have to have um like if our purposes don't match, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna be a constant friction. Because you know, I'm gonna be off doing my one thing that God has led me to do. And if she's going to be off doing her thing and it's pulling us in two separate directions, you know, what are we doing here? It's going to cause problems in the relationship and arguments and unnecessary disagreements. And, you know, so that equal yoke is very important. And part of that yoke is, you know, we have to be aligned in purpose. Otherwise, you know, you'll kill the strongest ox with a weak ox trying to pull it and drag it around. So that would be my two, man.
Okay, so you said something that's important. A lot of people, and that's definitely a good boundary. A lot of people understand, fellas. Have you ever gotten in a situation and you were wondering, like, you're focusing on, for instance, if you're trying to get your doctorate or work on your master's, and you're focusing in one direction trying to get something done, and the person that you consider your significant other is kind of pushing you in the other direction, or they're kind of pulling you in the other direction, you have to be really careful. The song, you know, never trust a big button to smile. Like, fellas, we got to get out of focus on the physical and really get to understand the mindset of a woman. If you meet a woman that is really goal focused and goal oriented, normally a good relationship for you, you know, if you're the type of person that you're focused on things, she has to have her own vision. And if you two are working, if she's working her vision and you working on your vision, it might not be match, but because you two are so focused, y'all can kind of like feed off each other in that area. You know, it's you know, you might not be equally yoked as far as she might be going one way, you might be going another way, but the fact that she supports what you're doing and you support what she's doing, sometimes you can kind of, that's a boundary you can kind of work around. Because if she handling her business, you handle your business, at the end of the day, when y'all get through handling y'all business, y'all come together and have a conversation. That's a good thing. If one of my boundaries, and I get, you know, Bill, you know, they finna talk, if I say something about what I'm about to respond to. I was reading the Bible about 7 years ago. I was just kind of perusing. I had a conversation with somebody about the Proverbs 31 woman. I mean, a very deep conversation. And for years, that verse has been, that section of gospel has been used, in my opinion, to browbeat women. Fellas, I need to tell y'all something. Proverbs 31 is not talking to women. It's talking to us. That was King Lemuel having a conversation, his mother having a conversation, letting him know, now that you're the king, this is the kind of woman that you don't go after the thought and you know, this, that, and other. This is the one you need. So for me, one of the boundaries that I saw, and this kind of relates going towards, well, Gary, this kind of relates into marriage. If you're seeking marriage, Proverbs 31, 10 through 12, that has become my absolute foundation for me. Because listen to this. It says, in so many words, it basically says, when I give you my heart, I have to know that you're not going to hurt me. When I put my heart in your hand, I have to know and trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Now, here's the funny thing about it, fellas. Women feel the same way. When a woman is really into you and she gives you her heart, she's saying, listen, I trust you not to hurt me. So one of my boundaries would have to be that if I can't give you my all and know that you're not going to hurt me, and I know that comes with levels, but I need to be able to know in the door that there's some level of trust that I can have with you. Here's a good question I have for you fellas on this boundary thing. Watch this. How many fellas, because this is what we do on the Locker Room Chronicles, how many fellas feel comfortable enough to talk to your potential mate or somebody that you're potentially get involved with about mental issues? Oh. Don't get quiet now. You know how we get out on this show. We get it cracking.
Are you talking about noticing or anything?
Well,
or
no, Bill, I'm glad you said it again, Bill, so I can answer that. Say it again.
Like when you notice something, or just bring it up off.
Okay, so let's say you meet somebody, and here's where it is, fellas. We can't worry about them, but let's talk about us. We know that we have some issues. And the reason I'm asking this is I watched a show today called Black Love, After Love, and the show's about mental issues. And it was basically what it was some couples who, when they started dating, I remember I told you this, fellas, women study us. When a woman is attracted to you or she really wants to be with you, she studies you, bruh. And if you ever meet a woman that keeps asking you, are you good or are you okay? Bruh, she sees something that you're trying to hide. Does not necessarily mean you got some on the side or you cheating, but we as men were taught not to cry, not to show our feelings, not to be emotional. So when a woman is really into you, she'll pick that up. So my question to you, this is a boundary question. How comfortable are you allowing yourself to be transparent with somebody that you consider being your better half? And before we answer that, Gary just came in. What's up, bro? Need you to do me a favor. We're talking about boundaries. I need you to answer two questions for me. The first question is, what does boundaries mean to you? Because you was on here last week, the last show we did. And then give me one of your boundaries that is like set and goal for you. Like you can't cross this no matter what.
All right. As a man in a relationship, the number one thing I value from a woman is that she respects me. Okay. So if you mock me about something I've told you I'm sensitive about, that's it. I can't trust you. Now, if I'm sensitive about something, I have to tell you. I have to be able to be confident to share the things I'm not proud of.
That's what
you have to do that, okay? If you're not willing to do that, and I understand you don't have to do it immediately, but as you go further along and progress, you have to cross that bridge. For me, I attach in stages. I like you. That's when we first start dating. I start sharing some things with you, but it's not until I feel comfortable that, yeah, this is somebody I want close to me, that I share the things that I'm not proud of. I'm the world's biggest procrastinator, for one thing. I'll share that. But you don't have to study me long to figure that one out. But but you have to be able, you have to cross that bridge. But that's where you also set boundaries, because just like we're not supposed to play with a woman's heart, she shouldn't play with yours either. So once you establish that, hey, this is something I'm real sensitive about, I don't joke about, I don't kid about, then everything's set. So let me turn it over to the youngins.
Oh, they already answered, bro. You
Oh, I'm late. I'm late to the party. I'm tardy to the party. I'm tardy to the party. Is that it?
Brother DuPont, I was like, yeah, come on, young fella. He looked around like, who are you talking to, Club? I know he's talking to me. But no, those are all good, fellas. Like I said, that show today really made me think. And I want us to think about this, fellas. And by the way, Brother DuPont, this show is about Black men uplifting one another, dealing with all kind of issues, mental issues, relationship issues. Basically, when we come in here, we chop it up about everything. Like, we pull no punches. We hold each other accountable. We look out for each other. Like, because in this day and age, man, we use the word mental health is a scary word. Therapy is a scary word. People like, oh my God, like, people run from that. But I have to say, brothers, listen to me. A man who seeks therapy for himself without being egged on or pushed is probably the most attractive thing in the world, because women, like, he's trying to get himself together. Brother DuPont, I'm not going to go into it, but some time ago during summer last season, we had a debate about a post. And I'm going to read 30 seconds with it. It was basically a brother who had fallen apart. He was getting himself together, and there was a woman helping him do it. And of course, that post was shredded. There was some very unfavorable comments made on that post across the gender pool, I would say it like that. And then me and my wisdom, I flipped the script, and I flipped the script, and I made it about the queens. And oh my God, this reading that, as Antoine would say, you could just reading that they was coming in a Hyundai and driving in a Chevrolet. they was shouting and saying, "Thank you, Jesus." And then when I brought up the irony of the whole situation, then it was like, you tricked us. No, ma'am. I just basically I kind of flipped the script to see what y'all, and let y'all see the hypocrisy of what y'all was doing, and as well as us. So, fellas, if we want to hold these women accountable in these boundaries, I'm sure any woman worth her weight in gold is going to have boundaries too. So we have to respect those. How do you relay your boundaries? What's a good way to kind of say, do you just sit out and be like, hey, here go a term paper, here go my syllabus. This is what I need you to do, blah, blah, blah. Like, what's a good way to have that conversation? Anybody can jump in. Like, how do you express your boundaries? What is a good way to do that? Do you do it over dinner? Do you? I would never recommend having that kind of conversation over the phone, and definitely not via text.
No.
Definitely not via text, fellas. Sometimes you can have a conversation via text, and it will get lost in translation, and it will cause you a huge problem. So I need the brothers kind of tell me, what's the way that you relay and convey what your boundaries are.
For me, go ahead, young man.
Go ahead, Twan.
I was going to say, thinking about that, one good way to do it, I did this actually before, is have a picnic. Because I guess I say, when you think about a perception of a picnic, it's like relaxation. It's a way to, it's a great way to kind of put it in a situation to where it's easy to communicate. You can put someone, whether it's me or myself or the person you're talking to, in a situation to where you put in, I don't want to say a perception, but you put in an atmosphere of relaxation and comfortability. And say, okay, you don't, so, just put, the basket out there, the blanket, you go to a park somewhere, and sit down on a nice warm day or whatever. And like I said, that's a good way to chop it up, because it's a great relaxation, great way to be relaxed and to be able to say, okay, here are my boundaries, and say, here are my boundaries. This is how I'm feeling.
That's great, but how do we always say, have these conversations? Nobody just comes in the house and sits down, goes, these are my boundaries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you cross it, this section subset 8, point 2, point 3, you done crossed me and I can't deal with you no more.
Yeah.
That, people talk about, have a conversation, it's all about communication, but it's unrealistic to sit somebody down on a random day and just have a conversation. These are my boundaries. What are your boundaries? How do you introduce it in the relationship?
Yep.
The
introduce the bill.
conversations don't cut it for me. What about you,
This how you do it. This how you do it, y'all.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Now that's not how I do it. I get distracted.
Go ahead, Gary.
All right. Look,
I was gonna say, I think for me, there's gonna be natural moments in a relationship where, you might be laying there on the couch and y'all just having, like, conversation should be built into your relationship. Y'all are sitting there on the couch. Y'all might be talking about whatever. Y'all might be talking about a TV show. You might be talking about music. You might be talking about, like, build into your relationship time just those times when y'all cuddled up together and just talk about anything. So rather than have a specific time to say, I'm going to take her here and we're going to have this conversation, I mean, you should be having conversations almost all the time on a regular, on stupid stuff, on your favorite shows, on your favorite music, on, whatever. Like, when you're getting to know somebody, you talk about all of that silly stuff. You talk about, all of that, shows, movies, all of that. So one of the things you bring up is, you might be bringing up, situations and experiences that you've had. And you can say, one of the things I've realized, because you can also bring up the things you've learned from your past relationships. And that's a good way to segue into it. I learned from my past relationship, without getting too much into the relationship, but I learned from it that I don't like it when, the person that I'm with drinks a lot and gets out of control, because I was in a situation where I was with somebody. We went out, we were having drinks with friends. She got toe up, I had to be carrying her, whatever. You can relate conversations like that just in general. It doesn't have to be, here, I'm going to sit you down and I'm going to talk to you about this, and that's it. Those things should be built in there naturally.
I got to tell you, from my experiences, I don't have to pick a time. You know why? Because the woman that's into you will be asking you questions.
Boy, say that again.
Say
that again for the members in the back. Say that again for the members in the back.
She will be asking you questions. And the more she's into you, the more probing the questions are going to be.
Woo, Jesus. Boy, if you don't get out of my front room.
So as the questions become more probing, that's the time to figure out if that's where you want to be. If this is the level you want to be, there's no good time like the present. So I wouldn't necessarily go to the trouble of trying to prepare an environment, because trust me, the questions are going to come. And when the questions come, it's a good time to answer. When you talk about mental issues, and that's another thing, I think we need to make sure that we understand what we mean when we use a term. Because a lot of stuff isn't mental, it's behavioral. So, and personality is behavior and personality. Stuff that's personality, a lot of times, for the most part, you really can't fix. For example, now, full disclosure, I'm a physician. We learn in terms of talking about a borderline personality. Borderline personality will never be satisfied. Never.
Boy.
And I had a psychologist that described it perfectly. He said it's like a cup with holes in it. No matter how much water you pour in it, it leaks. So it will never be full.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to figure out what that is. Just like a woman figures out, dang, he's borderline personality too. We won't even get into narcissism. That's another.
Boy, Gary, you're gonna make me scream. You say, boy,
no. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Because that's stuff you really can't fix.
No, you cannot.
Has to fix that.
I'm a witness.
Now let's go to behavior. And behavior is usually maladaptive. They get into a situation and they respond to it in a certain way. They think it works, so they continue to respond to it in a certain way. And men are just as guilty of doing that as women. So but it's a maladaptive behavior that you can change. You can say, okay, look, when you do X, this is what I see, this is what I feel, and this is how I'm going to respond. Let's try to prevent that from happening. Let's channel that in another direction. So, yeah. But to wrap it all up, we need to talk about, make sure that when we use mental versus personality versus behavior, I think for everybody, it's best to focus on the behavior. When you do X, this is what happens. Can we fix that? Can we break that cycle?
Those are some good points. Good, Gary. Good points, man. Something that you said earlier, even when you said, the conversation, you don't have to provide or bring up in conversation, some of the boundaries and everything that you might have is because they'll bring it up. I totally agree with you because that will happen. But what I would like the brothers to consider and maybe incorporate in their lives, not waiting on them to ask us questions, being more proactive in asking them questions. Because not only does that solve one of the number one issues that women have with men, is that communication. He doesn't open up to me or whatever. They feel important when you probe them too. That means you're showing some genuine interest in them.
Exactly.
You're asking what type of things that they like to do, what borders they have, through conversations, not sitting down talking about, all right, we're gonna have a conversations about our borders, but through like Myron was talking about, our everyday conversation. We can be watching a Netflix movie and something happens with a character, and we both react like, I don't know about that. And, we can integrate that scene into our conversation when we're talking about the movie, and understand each other's boundaries and limitations through, not even recognize you're learning the guardrails through everyday conversation. But we also need to be proactive and ask them questions also. It's more beneficial for us because sometimes we're out there with this beautiful woman and we don't know until it's too late. The writing is on the board and it's like, oh, I was after that big butt and a smile that the bearded king was talking about, but this ain't work out too well because I ain't do my due diligence and ask questions myself. As a matter of fact, I avoided it because I didn't want an argument.
Woo! Say that again, sir.
Whoa. But Bill, I agree with you that we should ask questions. I'm saying that because women, and I should say, because women that I've dealt with, they've attached to me more deeply at a given point in time than I do. I'm much slower. The questions are going to come to me. But I, just like you, I'll be watching something. Or these reality TV shows are a perfect conversation starter. Lord knows, man, some of the stuff that be going on, it's like, yeah. And it's like, no, no. Did you see that? So those are good conversation starters. And I think I was watching the reunion show for Ready to Love, this most recent season.
Right.
So I'm watching it with somebody and I'm talking. And the woman, Denise, she talks about what the one of the woman's the sister died, so she had to leave, and she gave us all this big explanation. And so they got to the reunion. The girlfriend said, "I didn't say all that." And so Denise was like, "Well, I just wanted to put in there. I wanted to add to." No. It's like you're a train wreck. And so then, that sparked conversation about adding to people's words and muddying the message. And clearly she was somebody that, and then they showed clips of her when one guy she was dealing with was talking to another woman, and she was like sucking her teeth and It's like, nah, this is you don't need that. So yeah, there's opportunity. Never let an opportunity just go by.
Cool.
Yeah.
Gary, let me tell you something real quick. 5 seconds. Fellas, I got a question for you. When you're interacting with a young lady that you're interested in, do you take mental notes, or even like maybe later on that day kind of jot some stuff down? Because you do know, I think, Bill, you said that you do know that when you meet a young lady, the interview process has already started. And they are observing you. And I think I don't know who said it, that when somebody's really interested in you, the probing is really something that they do. Like they really ask you.
Yeah. The more attached.
That was you said that, Gary?
I said the more they're attached, the more probing the questions become.
And you're absolutely right. And fellas, do you know we miss it every time? Most of the time we miss it because here's what separates the men from the boys. If you're uncomfortable being probed and having that kind of conversation, then you're not ready for a relationship.
All right.
You're not ready for a relationship. If you're not, because one thing about a woman, a true woman, she's going to ask questions because she wants to know, is he worth my time? Is he worth us going to that next level? And if she deems you worthy, then as a man, you should deem her worthy to share information with her. Gary, you said something that was very true. You don't want to say everything all at once, but there is a certain level of information that needs to be handed in the beginning. And because you never know, it's like you don't want to spend 3, 4, 5 months with somebody and then realize, okay, we're not compatible. I mean, me, I'm not ashamed to say that I'll be 53 years old March 31st. So I'm a little seasoned. I got more years behind me than I got in front of me. I don't know if the Lord will give me another 50 years. So my like an old Detroit player, for make your next move your best move. So I'm trying to make my next move.
Oh yeah.
Because that's all it's going to be for me. So we want to make sure that we're open. My boy Mike in the building.
Yes, sir.
Sliding in. You came in late. I want to hear from you, brother. We're talking about boundaries still. So
well,
go ahead, brother.
I heard what you were saying about, having a woman ask you questions. I don't mind questions. I just don't want it to feel like I'm being interviewed.
Then you need to cut it out because that's going to happen. It's always going to feel like an interview. Because they want to know.
Yeah, but not all at one time.
They want to know.
Some of your stuff, you're going to gain some things over time. You understand?
Did you just hear me say 50 plus years old? We got time for all that.
Now, I think what Michael's saying is there's a time and place for every question.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Some questions, some questions, nah, wait a minute. We ain't that far yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let me share a story with you about a situation that progressed over 6 months. It went from interesting to toxic.
Woo! Woo, in 6 months?
Yeah, well, in 3 of those months, I was actually overseas.
Oh, it
so,
is.
anyways, I meet.
Oh, you was left me a long time. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
toxic don't take long. Toxic don't take long.
no. Oh, okay. So, all right, I meet this young lady. We shared a passion for ballroom dancing, and so we had some very, very deep discussions. And then some of the questions got a little too probing in terms of it suggested a level of attachment that wasn't warranted for anything I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so the conversation kind of got clingy. So about 2 months in, I go overseas. And I say, you know what? I need to, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this not right. So I said, email. Oh yeah, I thought about it. Well, I was overseas, man. Come on, now. I'm overseas. I'm in the military.
Skype.
So, well, it was 2011. There was no such thing as Skype. So, anyways, I said, well, we're gonna break up. I said, I think we just be friends, right? So I get back. We go and I said, hey, I'm sorry I had to tell it to you in email that way, but I was overseas, but I need to come talk to you face to face, talk about why. And it seemed to be too quick, too deep, too quick. And I'm like, oh, well, hold up. She goes, oh, okay. But then she started monitoring everybody I was dancing with. And then she started sending me comments and text messages and emails talking about, oh, who's this? Who's that? I'm like, what the? So finally, one of the hand dance partners who I actually started dating maybe a month earlier, the three of us are at a hand dance event or a ballroom dance event. I'm walking the young lady I started dating out to the car. The toxic one drives up, curses me out, and then drives off. Now, unfortunately for her, my intuition allowed me to research the laws of harassment and stalking in Maryland. And so once she did that, I said, okay. I sent a voicemail, text message, and email saying, it's over. Do not contact me ever again, etc. Right? Knowing full well she was going to reply.
Oh, you baited her.
Of course, what did she do? Oh, she replied. I said, good. That all went into the peace order application.
Mm-hmm.
So
you baited her, bro.
And she's like, oh, her attorney said, oh, we don't need to talk about this. If you just dismiss it, she'll just go away. I'm like, okay, hey, look, I'm glad I got her attention now. Okay.
Wow.
So like you said, it don't take 6 months. It just takes the right situation. And when I tried to separate, and she started going after people I wasn't really attached to, I was just dancing with them. She started going after them. I'm like, oh, whoa, way out of line. So yeah, that's a boundary.
You, bro, you said something that was funny. I'm kind of curious if the approach that you took was, I mean, I'm gonna be blunt, was bogus. I mean, I know you said overseas, that's the only way you could do it. I think I would have handled that when I got back. But if you did it overseas, there should have been no conversation once you got back. Like there's no face-to-face. You've already, for lack of a better word, stabbed her via email. So it's all right. Ain't no conversation. So no, you had a conversation with her, you gave her false hope because it's like, well, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, blah, blah. Bro, if you're gonna cut it, just cut it and be done with it. Because I'm going by the observation of what you said. I mean, because
I would agree.
Over that door again, it's like
I would agree.
Like, no, you ain't no chance. Yeah. I told you in December I was done. So here I'm home for the summer, and I'm trying to explain. Ain't nothing to explain. It's a wrap.
Yeah. What I would have said, if in retrospect, the only thing I would have done, I would have said, look, when I get back, we need to have a talk.
That would have been a much better, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now see that, you know, we mess up. I would have said we need to talk. And then face to face, I would have said, nah, we need to be friends. She couldn't say anything because I would have just got back from being overseas. So it'd be like, nah, I'm not really, it's you. Well, no, I would say, no, it's me.
Here's a good situation. We need to give the ladies the same thing we want. Again, this is just me. This is not law. Y'all do what y'all want to do. I never want to have that kind of conversation via text or via email. And honestly, I kind of don't want to have it over the phone, but if that's what we have to do at the time, then yeah, those kind of conversations need to be had in person because it's eye contact. Because sometimes you might be getting ready to release a situation, but if you have that eye-to-eye contact and that heart-to-heart, something might go, wait a minute. Maybe they didn't understand what they did. Because if somebody do something, you text them like, man, this is bogus, blah, 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 blah. That person generally might not understand what they did. So, and you send them a text like, I'm done. And they sit there like, what did I do? So you leave them kind of looking crazy. But certain situations, fellas, we as men, we need to have those conversations face to face. That text, man, listen, you lose so much in translation via text.
Oh yeah.
Like trust me, that was a big issue for me in the past. Like, do not text me any information. If I read the text and I see where it's heading, I'm picking up the phone and calling you. Like, do we need to talk? Because I'm not responding to this. Because I guarantee you, anytime you do something like case in point, Gary, you're going to experience what Gary experienced. Because if you're going to cut something like that, fellas, be done with. That's a boundary. If you're saying I'm done, fellas, be done. Don't go back, try to be slick. No, if you're done, be done. Because the one thing I've learned the hard way, you can create a sense of false hope. And when they come back and then they know that you didn't mean that they had a chance, then you're going to get what you got. So you got that toxic behavior because you created the situation for it. I believe if you'd have left that alone, you never would experience that. So say what you say, mean what you say what you mean, and mean what you say. And that's just it. As we continue to talk about this, we're not done with this. Like, we definitely gonna have to do a part 3 to this. But there's something that another one of our co-hosts, and he's probably working right now, Lyndon he's not in the building, but that's our boy. He says something. His famous line is "Know your worth and add tax." Fellas, if you don't know your worth, you can't set a boundary. I'm gonna say it again. If you don't know your worth, you can't set a boundary. Because boundaries protect your worth, it protects your state of mind, it protects your heart, it protects you. It's not that you're trying to run the person off. If you got boundaries that are running people off, then that's not a boundary. That's you just being difficult. But boundaries really are supposed to be healthy, and they're supposed to build the relationship up. So as you think about your boundaries, fellas, you got to know your worth. And that's something that we go through on this. Antoine, you my boy, you like little bro, I appreciate you, but bro, I need you to do me a favor. And I've said this to you before. I need you to focus on your worth. Despite what you've gone through, brother, like, it's not the end. Because somebody did not value you, then that's them. I know you know your worth. So what I need you to do is to really focus on what Antoine needs. Brother DuPont, same thing. I don't know this brother. He just came on tonight. I appreciate him joining in. I appreciate Whitney inviting him. But all the fellas, DuPont, Gary, Bill, Myron, Mike, you know how we get down. Myron, you know how we get down. I want to charge the brothers on this line tonight to really value who you are, know your worth, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Don't set a boundary that you yourself are not doing. Or you yourself know that you're not where you need to be in that area. We have to have some hard conversations with ourselves. A little experiment, and I want you to do this. Like, when you get up in the morning, as you're getting ready to go your prospective jobs, or if you're an entrepreneur, your businesses, I want you to get up in the morning. I want you to go and look in the mirror as you're brushing your teeth and wash your face. And I want you to take a long, hard look at yourself and ask yourself, do you like what you see in that mirror? Do you like what the reflection that you see? Is that who you want to be? And then if you see anything about yourself that you don't like, then let's change it, fellas. Let's change the narrative. Let's really say, you know what? I don't like this about me. Because let me tell you something, I promise you, I don't care how smooth a dancer you are, how good a chef you are, how you take care of yourself, nails, beard, whatever you do. The thing that really attracts a real woman is a man that knows his worth and knows his shortcomings and is willing to work on. And that's what the Locker Room Chronicles is about. We're about working on our shortcomings, boosting our strengths that way, because we all want to be able to have that day when everybody might not be seeking marriage, but you definitely want to be in a relationship that you're comfortable in.
Mhm.
You definitely want, and there's no perfect relationship because you're going to have some issues. But my famous line is this: when I'm in a relationship with somebody, especially if we're in a serious, intentional relationship, there are going to be days we might not like each other. But if we're at that level where we say we love each other, it's going to be days we might not like each other, but that love should never change. Hell, there's going to be some days you might not like yourself, but you should never get so down on yourself that you don't love who you are. And that goes back to knowing your worth. Like, I really need the fellas to focus on that. Because there's so many of us out here dating and hanging out and doing things, and we think we're good, and we're not. We're really not, fellas. We might look like the package might look good, but the inside, you all screwed up. But how many of us are willing to be honest and say, you know what? I'm short in this area. I'm short in that area. I'm strong here, super strong there. But the areas that you're short in, are you really willing to work on them? Like, real talk, are you really willing to just say, you know what? I need, like, we remember Bill, one of our shows, Fix the Fundamentals. Sometimes you gotta go back to the basics. I don't care if you Jordan, you always have to go back to the basics. Like, you got to go back to where it started and try to figure out, okay, where did the breakdown come in? So with boundaries, again, boundaries are set in place to make the relationship grow. And as I said, as the relationship grows, certain boundaries will fall off because you're moving to another level. Like DuPont said something that was powerful. If you're not in a relationship status or marriage status, you shouldn't be talking about marriage. If that's not where you want to be, like, set boundaries that a marriage would have, and relationship status is not going to work unless you guys are talking about actually getting married. So in the door, if you're setting boundaries that relate to marriage, you set yourself up for failure because you're not there yet. So be realistic about the goal, about the boundaries that you're setting to where you are. And like I said, as the relationship evolves, as you grow in love, because I don't believe in falling in love, I believe in growing in love. As you grow in love, then the boundaries will change on each level. I don't know about you fellas, but I respect a woman that takes you through levels. Watch this, I'm gonna make y'all laugh. When the last time y'all actually courted somebody? Look at y'all, look at me like y'all don't know what I'm talking about. they look at me like, what? Courting?
Jane, define courtship.
Still use it.
Okay, you define courtship, bro.
I still use courting. I still use that word courting.
Yeah, you got to define it because there's 7 billion people on this planet. There's 6.9 billion definitions for courting.
Okay.
So define it. And I would suggest, first of all, as a man, you should define to the woman how you feel or how you progress in a relationship. And if the courtship comes up, define that too.
Yeah.
Because if you define those things, those are the guardrails. That's the first thing. And I've evolved into a certain the way I approach my relationships. And there was one lady I was dating. I made the mistake of completing the evolution, but not telling her. That was kind of stupid, don't you think?
Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah. So now henceforth, that's what I do. I say, okay, these are the stages I go through in a relationship. From initial attraction to marriage, 6 steps. And I define the steps. And I define courtship as one of the steps, step 4. And I define what courtship is. So everybody's operating on the same definition. Do that up front.
How you feel about it, Brother DuPont?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely all good. You know, recording is something that some people call a lost art. I feel like there's lots of people, at least in my circles and in my Facebook circles and friend circles. I feel like there are people that court quite a bit, some to larger degrees and some to lesser degrees. But there are definitely people that are still out there courting and still desire that. Obviously, a lot of ladies desire it. Some guys try to get around the courting and Netflix and chill and all that. But I think the impression would be as we get older, of course, courtship becomes more of a natural part of our development in a relationship, rather than just trying to get into the draws all the time, because we're looking for something that's a little more deeper or something a little more substantive, as these gray hairs start to come, in the larger and larger numbers. And so, that's what the thought comes with courtship. And last time I courted wasn't too long ago. It wasn't too long ago. It's probably somewhere mid-pandemic, I would probably say.
Say, the pandemic has, whatever your definition of courting is, you've had to apply it. If you've done any type of, having virtual dates and phone calls and FaceTimes and Skype.
Oh my God, rave.
COVID courtship.
God said, sit down in court. And we've had no, if we want to survive this thing and try to come out on the end of it, with something valuable, use our time wisely and sit down and court somebody while you're going through this thing. It might even help your depression.
Right.
So shoot your shot, in other words. Myron, go ahead. How you shooting your shot, brother?
Listen, I'm a firm believer in shooting that shot. So I went through.
You hit it with Jordan. You hit it with the.
Listen. Let me tell you, when I'm when you're single and you see, to me it's just really simple. Whether you're a man, and I said it on a thread the other day, whether you're a man or a woman, if you see somebody that you're interested in, shoot it, take it. You know what I mean? Because you never know. You never know. But in terms of courtship, I'm a big believer in courtship. I'm a little old school in my values and my approach and everything. So, I'm a big believer. I know I kind of date differently than most people. Or I shouldn't say most people, than some people. Because there's a two schools of thought where you kind of date everybody until somebody separates themselves, or you date one person at a time. I'm a firm believer in, getting to know as many people as you can until you find that person that really moves you. You know what I mean? And then when you find that person that moves you, then you move on them. You let them know, you show your interest, you set aside time for them, you show them that they're important, you get involved in their life, you start to blend things together, and you show them how important that they are. So all of those stages it goes through. So, courtship is important in terms of, getting to know somebody, letting them know you, letting them know that they're special to you, that they caught your eye, that, you're trying to get to know them. Then after you get to know them, when you decide that's the person you want to be with, letting them know, hey, listen, you're the person I want to be with. I might have been getting to know whatever, 2-3 people. Now I want to focus on you. So I've stepped back from those 2-3 people, and my focus is now solely on you. So let's see where this is going. You get that focus. If everything works out, then you let them know, hey, you are the person I want to be with. I want to be in something committed with you. And then you go from there. But you got to go through all the stages. Don't rush through it. But take your time. Make sure it's good. Make sure you both seeing eye to eye. Make sure you're both feeling the same thing. And then make sure, as your understanding grows deeper, that it's the same understanding, because you can get to know somebody and you're compatible on the surface. But as you get deeper and get to deeper topics, you might find out that there is a topic that you both see completely opposite. Not that they're a bad person, not that, you know, they're trifling or whatever, or anything. They can still be a great person, but you might get to a topic that you both see something different, and you know that that topic or that thing or whatever it is going to be a problem. You talk about it, and then you both, you know, say, listen, this is something that's very important to me. I see that we're not compatible here. Maybe it's best that, you know, we go our separate ways, or whatever the case may be. And you talk about it and you see how the person feels about it. But, you know, that whole progression of, you know, whatever the terms, like Gary said, there's so many different terms, and you can talk to 3 people and ask them what courtship is, and they'll give you 3 different answers. So even though we all might have different terms, pretty much we all go through the same process. We just might label it differently. But as you go through that process, you kind of just check and just make sure that, okay, we got a little deeper, we're still good. All right, cool. Let's take it another step. We got a little deeper, we're still good. All right, let's go a little deep. And you keep going a little deeper, 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 until you might find out that that person is the one. And so, you know, all those steps are critical. Every single one of them is critical.
Mike, speak on it, and then we got to go ahead and close this up. Go ahead, Mike.
I agree with Myron. You know, me personally, I can only date one woman at a time.
Go ahead, sir.
So me, I date with a purpose. And all of my friends have told me, you know, I cannot go into the relationship thinking that every woman I date is going to be the one that I marry. But that's my mindset, because that's what I want. If I know I'm seeking marriage, I'm just not going to be out here dating for fun.
Talk about that, sir.
You know, so if she's not on the same level, if she's not seeking marriage, then it's not really that much we can do, but just, you know, hang out a bit, maybe, you know, dibble dabble here and there. You know.
What's dibble dabble?
You know,
explain dibble dabble.
You know, you play in the mud a couple times, you know.
What is the dibble dabble?
We might do, you know, she come over my house, I go over her house, you know, we chill, stay the night, and boom.
And dibble dabble.
Oh, okay.
You gonna dibble or dabble?
But that has always been, you know, my mindset, and it led me to my first marriage. Yes, it did lead me to my first marriage, and it always led me into all of my relationships. However, only one of them ended in marriage. So just to go out here, you know, and just see what the dating pool is all about, it's not really me. You know, when I start to get to know somebody, when I'm interested, I'm interested. You're gonna get 100% of my attention. Well, I ain't gonna say 100% because I got kids, so you'll have enough attention to know that I'm interested.
I'll rise to that.
Okay.
All right.
But Mike, what
Yes, sir.
And the rest of them were dibble dabblers?
Yeah. Yeah, I ain't gonna pass up the dibble dabbles now.
Hey, I got to say something before we close out. I thought of the analogy between women shooting their shot and men shooting their shot, and it hit me. A woman is a one guard looking to dish, going to the basket, and the man is a two guard looking to throw it down. Yeah.
Roger on the analogy. So here's the thing. I want to say, in case y'all wonder why I was laughing so hard. DuPont already messed me up because when he said what he said, the first thing I thought about was Tommy and Martin. We talking about
Get the
GT
draws.
getting the draws. Boy,
The GTD.
he was like, what about I got those draws too. And then Mike comes back with the double. I'm like, wait, so we out here dabbling and getting the draws. Like,
I can't wait to see the comments on that, man.
oh, look here. Hey, fellas, if y'all get an inbox tonight talking about, can I get some dabble? You know,
Hey, my DM is open. But the question I got to ask him, can you handle it?
Don't be like old boy, like Rashid said on his comedy show. It's like, that's not me, baby. I live on a fight floor. That's not me. But Bill, you want to wrap it up? I'm gonna let Bill wrap it up. Before Bill wrap it up, I want y'all to look behind me, man. Listen, this LockerRoom Chronicles situation is getting serious, bro. It's getting serious. If you look behind me, you'll see our new logo. That's the new logo for the LockerRoom Chronicles. There's some other things that me and Bill and Lyndon are working on. So look out, get ready, fellas. This is bigger than what we're doing. Just understand this. There's only a few of us. During the summer, there was a bigger crowd. Shout out to my little brother Kamal, Music, Yuli, all y'all, man. We miss y'all. Want y'all to come on back. I'm sure Lyndon is working right now. That's the only reason why he's not on here. But I wanted to thank Brother DuPont for coming on. Prayerfully, this is not your last time, brother. We appreciate you. Like, we get on here and chop it up. We're real candid, real transparent. We play no games. So that's what we do. That's what we are. This is the LockerRoom Chronicles, brother. It's about to get real serious. So I just want to appreciate the brothers that are supporting us and that are hanging in there with us. Mike, Myron, Gary, old school wisdom of Gary. It's wonderful, man. I appreciate y'all. So young Antoine is our young Padawan is sitting there taking notes, trying to learn from the senior fellas. But don't go out here dabbling, brother. You don't need to be dabbling. Don't deal with your dabble because you're gonna mess around and dabble into something you ain't got nothing to do.
Don't double dribble when you dabble.
Exactly. Right. Don't be a quick dabbler either. So
take your time.
Mike, you done coined the term now, bro.
Hey, that's all right.
They gonna blame you now.
Right.
He gonna come in here and want to dibble dabble.
Right.
Want to dibble dabble and get a little nibble.
Somebody gave me an acronym, but I can't share it. I'll tell y'all about it later. So yeah. So as we GTD and dibble dabble, go ahead and take us up.
All right, fellas, I'd like to thank you and everything for another productive LockerRoom Chronicles. Everybody sharing their opinions, their thoughts, their views, their perspectives really helps out, and give people a little food for thought on how they should handle these boundary situations in their relationships. I'd like to thank y'all brothers. Gary, would you like to lead us out in prayer? We'd like to do this.
Okay, I'm in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Brothers, let's take off all our hats, bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for the use of modern technology by which you bring together men who are following in your footsteps and hope to show other men how to be pillars in their community and kings to these queens in our group. Now, as we depart to wherever we're going, follow us with your traveling mercies until we reach our final destination, and continue to inspire our Holy Spirits, each and every one of us, so that we are a better version of ourselves than the day before. We ask these and all blessings in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right, fellas, one love.
Good to meet you.
Still can't get over the dibble dabble though, Mike.
Right.
I can't get.
Well, we all have done it.